and welcome to our channel. Today we will be discussing sex education, teenage pregnancy, its effect on teenagers in the US and other climes of the world. I would begin with a short story about Stephanie and Brent. 15-year-old Stephanie had told her boyfriend in a quivering voice over the phone that she had something important to tell him. She had insisted on telling him in person. Now, as she faced Brent in the front seat of his car, she struggled to control her emotion. A nervous smile stretched across her lips. "I have something really great news to tell you," she said, her wild eyes looking into his with a mixture of fear and hope. Brent's forehead furrowed. He didn't smile. "Yeah," he said, wondering what this was about and knowing only that it felt wild. She stopped herself, almost losing control, but quickly wrestling her emotions like cowboy roping to calf. She started again. "We are going to have a baby." She smiled again as broadly as she could and watched his face closely. Brent's mouth opened and he peered hard into her face. He had not yet smiled. "You are pregnant?" he asked, his voice quickened like a choir boy whose voice has just begun to change. Stephanie nodded vigorously and swallowed before speaking. "Aren't you happy?" Brent hesitated only a moment this time before answering. "Well, yeah." He licked his lips. "Are you?" "Yes," Stephanie blurted, desperately wanting to convince Brent and herself of the answer. She threw her arms around his shoulder and pressed her face against his neck. "Aren't you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Brent slowly wrapped his hand around Stephanie and began to pat her gently, as if she were a baby. "Yeah, sure I am. If you're happy about it, then I am happy too." Stephanie closed her eyes against the tears that welled inside. She was scared. Scared about being pregnant. Scared about telling a parent. And scared about what Brent was finally thinking. This is what happened to a teenage girl when they are not prepared for what happens to them. You see, the teen years are tempestuous for teens and really battling for adults. Adolescence is characterized by new and intense sensations, unpredictable moods, overpowering emotions, and conflicting demands and expectations. A lot of teenagers are actually battling with so much today. Peer pressure, so many things. I came across a teenager a few months back, and she told me some things that happened in our classroom. Peer pressure, to the extent that she had to finally get a boyfriend for herself because of what they were doing to her. Several factors seem to contribute to the high rate of teens pregnancy, ranging from inferiority, a young girl who feels insecure about the changes happening in her body, alcohol and drug influence, often a young lady who is struggling with the discovery of her sexuality and the power of her first real relationship with a boy, finds herself at a party, another environment in which alcoholic drinks or drugs are easily accessible. Before you know what, after taking the third glass of beer, she wouldn't know what she's doing again. Arranging hormones, a boyfriend incessant whispers, all this resistant crumbles, and before you know what, she soon finds herself crossing a line she had not planned to cross. Early dating is another thing. The younger a girl begins to date, the more likely she is to have sex before even graduating from high school. Relational need. Many young girls are uncertain about their parents' love for them. They're uncertain about the parent love for them. Many don't even believe that their parents love them. A young girl was asked, "What has really been your challenge?" And you know what she said? She said she had to ask her parents, do they really love her? And she said, let me quote her here, "When I was 8 years, I first had sex with a boy of 15. I did it because I lacked love and attention from my parents. I need love, and my parents never showed me any. Nothing changed at home, and at 15, I became pregnant. I had an abortion. Now, I'm afraid to date anyone. I cry myself to sleep every night." This is Kim. This is part of the things they are going through. Sex is an easy way for them to get it. But after getting it, they still feel depressed about the fact that they got it in the wrong way. One teenager confessed. She said, "We are all running around, needing to get hugged." The dilemma for some is that if I want to be touched, if I want to be held, I have to have sex. And so this is where sex education comes in. And this is where I'm going to dwell on lack of sex education at home. Lack of sex education at home. There is no substitute for a home in which sex is approached in a frank and sensitive way, in which questions are greeted in an open manner, in which the beauty of sex within marriage and the danger of sex outside marriage is discussed. Many children don't get to grow up in such homes where we as parents are open to discuss topics of sex. In some homes, topics of sex are forbidden, either explicitly or implicitly. The parent seems embarrassed, perhaps even afraid of the subject. The young adolescent hormonal changes are never even discussed. And so, even if a child has been educated about the technical aspect of sexual behavior, the reproductive system, the mechanism of sex that's in the school, and the things that they learn, a child whose parents do not encourage relaxed conversation, calm acceptance of human sexuality, a loving approach to teen issues, such child will be far less equipped to avoid premarital sex. And before you know what, such child become pregnant. And we as parents at such time, we begin to get worried. We begin to ask questions. We begin to say, "Oh, this child has done this to us." Most parents do not learn about sexuality from their parents. And because of this, they lack the role model to help them in approaching their own children. They often perceive themselves to be uninformed about sexuality and may be confused about the sexual values they wish to communicate to their children. This is where you need a sex educator. This is where parents also need to be aware that they don't know it all. You need to reach out. You need to speak with those who know about this thing. You can also learn as parents, so that you'll be able to help your children. Remember, you are your children's first teacher, and they believe they are reading everything you're doing, and whatever you tell them, they hold on to it. And that is the most important reason why we as parents need to know and give our children the right education. Kids who don't find the answer at home often learn the answer by painful experience. In the words of one of the teens, which I can remember, she said, "Teenagers are ignorant about what they are doing. All they know is that they were made with certain body parts, so they might as well find out what they are used for. It's sort of like test driving a car just to see how well it performs. They test drive. They want to see what's going on. They want to know how it feels. And before they know what, they get caught up." At this point, I would like to say, if you're a parent, a guardian, an educator, a teacher, and you have teenagers around you, don't hesitate to give them the adequate knowledge about sex, education, and their sexuality. It will help them a long way. To wrap this up, I will tell a vivid story about a friend of mine who we got discussing about this a few years back, and he told me how his mom put him through about his body, his sexuality, and all that. So it is not just meant for the ladies alone, it's also meant for the guys. It really helped him a long way, that at the point when he graduated from the university and he had to he couldn't abstain from sex, but then he knew what to do. His mom had told him about contraceptives. His mom had told him about the things to do. His mom had given him lecture about the fact that you have to abstain, but if you don't abstain, you have to do this. All the things that his mom had told him helped him at that point. So it's not going to be a factor of just teaching your daughters. Also teach your son. Sex education for teenagers is very important.